the oxygen-stealing reason your own blood shares its exact crimson color with a killer tide. And in 2018, off the coast of Florida, it buried 5 tons of dead fish onto the sand in a single week. Look at your wrist right now. That red under your skin exists for one reason: to carry oxygen to every cell in your body. Somewhere off the coast, the ocean turns that same crimson. But it isn't carrying oxygen, it's stealing it. And the reason lives inside you before it ever reaches the water. Here's what nobody tells you about that color. Iron is what makes your blood red. It grabs oxygen molecules and drags them through your veins, keeping you alive one heartbeat at a time. You never have to think about it. It just happens silently 60 times a minute. The ocean runs on the same chemistry: iron, sunlight, and microscopic organisms multiplying by the trillions. When conditions align, those organisms bloom into the exact rust-red shade pulsing under your skin right now. Scientists call it a red tide. Locals call it the year the beach started to smell like death. In August of 2018, the water along Florida's Gulf Coast turned the color of an open wound. Not metaphorically, actually crimson, stretching over 150 miles. Tourists photographed it from piers, thinking it was beautiful. It wasn't. Underneath that color, something invisible was happening. The bloom was multiplying so fast it was suffocating everything beneath it. Dolphins died first, then sea turtles, then manatees, hundreds of them, gasping in water that looked identical to the blood in your own veins but held almost none of what blood is supposed to carry. By the time it ended 15 months later, over 2,000 tons of marine life had washed ashore. The ocean had turned red, and turning red, it had stopped breathing. But here's where it gets stranger. Red tides are loud. Visible from space, they make headlines, they close beaches. What they hide is quieter, moving beneath them where no camera points. The actual oxygen theft doesn't happen while the bloom glows crimson on the surface. It happens after. When those trillions of organisms die, they sink. Bacteria rush down to consume the corpses, burning through dissolved oxygen the way fire burns through air in a sealed room. The red fades. The evidence disappears. What's left is colorless, odorless, and far more dangerous than the tide that caused it. Marine biologists have a term for what forms next: a dead zone. Not red anymore, just empty. Fish that swim into it get no warning. No color change, no smell, no visible boundary. Only the sudden absence of the one thing every gill was built to find. In the Gulf of Mexico, one of these zones has grown past 8,000 square miles most summers, roughly the size of New Jersey, sitting underwater, breathing nothing. It's fed by the exact same iron and nutrient chemistry running through your own bloodstream. Fertilizer runoff feeds rivers. Rivers feed algae. Algae turns crimson, blooms, dies, and drags the ocean's oxygen down into the dark. The same element keeping you alive is, at scale, suffocating an entire sea floor. It isn't isolated to Florida. Off Namibia, the water sometimes runs blood orange with sulfur bacteria thriving in oxygen-starved depths, a color so unnatural fishermen call it the burn. In the Cariaco Basin off Venezuela, deep water has been essentially oxygen-free for centuries, a permanent crimson-tinted graveyard where nothing with lungs or gills has lived in living memory. These aren't accidents. They're previews. Ocean oxygen levels worldwide have dropped roughly 2% since the 1960s, and the invisible dead zones, the ones with no red tide to announce them, have quadrupled in size since, spreading like a bruise no one sees forming until the skin gives out. Think about what that means for the thing pumping in your chest right now. Your body evolved around one guarantee: iron finds oxygen, and oxygen finds you. The ocean made the same evolutionary bet 3 billion years ago, and for most of that time it paid off. Now the same red chemistry keeping your organs alive is, in warming water, doing the opposite out at sea, binding, consuming, burying oxygen faster than currents replace it. Fish are squeezed into shrinking bands of livable water, trapped between a warming surface and a deep zone already gone. Fisheries that fed coastal towns for generations are quietly collapsing, not from overfishing, but from water that stopped being breathable. And phytoplankton, responsible for roughly half the oxygen you inhale in a given day, are among the first casualties when a bloom turns toxic and crashes an ecosystem around it. Which brings us back to your wrist. That crimson under your skin was never a coincidence. It's the same iron chemistry the ocean uses, running at a scale you can hold in one hand instead of one that swallows hundreds of square miles. In 2024, researchers tracking an oxygen minimum zone off the California coast found it had roughly doubled in the past decade alone, spreading closer to shore than anything on record. No red tide announced it. No beach closure warned anyone. It simply grew, silent and colorless, underneath boats with no idea what was thinning beneath their hulls. So ask yourself this: if the loudest, reddest warning the ocean can give us, an actual blood-colored tide visible from orbit, still wasn't enough to stop the quiet zones spreading underneath it, what happens the day the silent ones finally reach the surface? 941 words. The blood-iron parallel opens the loop. The 2018 Florida red tide anchors the first revelation. The pattern interrupts shifts from visible red tides to invisible dead zones. The risk callback lands mid-deep reveal, and it closes on a new unanswered question rather than resolving.